That's my name.
Hey, this is Sharks Across Hollywood, and it's week 2 of Halloween month. But
Year.
again, I don't know. I'm what?
Decade, century. I said year.
Oh, year.
Halloween week.
2024. It's 2024, 2035, 97. I don't know.
Depends on when you're listening to this, really.
Because really, we're just stuck in a time loop.
Yep.
Even though I'm realizing in this movie, there's not much of a time loop. I didn't really realize that until I watched
time
it
loop,
again.
You don't. There's not a time loop in this movie. You only realize there's a time loop once you watch The Endless.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't have this movie categorized in my time loop movies.
It's really not, and I thought it was because I think The Endless came around and like, oh, that makes sense. But really, I think the monster just got bored and decided to like, all right, these two fucking assholes that are over here bothering me, I think I'm gonna put them in the time loop too.
Yeah, I mean the idea is that what the takeaway for the characters, which we're jumping straight to the end, folks. So if you don't want to hear it, hey, you've been warned.
Yep. All right, pause, because I know you clicked on it, but we're talking about this little movie called Resolution. Okay, go.
The takeaway for the characters by the end of the movie is that whatever is sending them the stories, quote unquote stories, because they keep getting these like little snippets of stories, or what our main character, what's his fucking name, Mike, what Mike keeps referring to as stories anyway. The story needs an ending, and the implication is that Mike's takeaway anyway is that whatever this cosmic horror entity that is doing this to them is not satisfied with the ending.
He wants a happy ending, and we gave him a happy ending, but sorry, we'll do it again, is basically what he says right at the end.
Not in so many words. I mean, he really abbreviates it. But then what we see in The Endless, and we're getting into spoiler territory for The Endless here. So if you haven't seen The Endless, I highly recommend going and watching The Endless as well now, and then coming back to this, because The Endless takes place in the same universe, in the same world, and these characters do pop up. Yeah, so the idea is, in The Endless, Mike's belief for how to get out of the time loop is to give it a good ending. Like, that's what Mike's philosophy has become, if you pay attention. How recently have you watched The Endless?
A few weeks ago, because I really wanted to watch it again, but I'm like, I kind of want to watch Resolution first. So I watched Resolution, The Endless, and then Spring, like all kind of one right after the other.
Yeah, that's Mike's takeaway. Like, that's literally what Mike says, like right before he burns the house down in The Endless with them inside. He's like, see if you like this one.
Well, Mike doesn't burn the house down. The junkies do.
No, I mean, in The Endless, Mike burns the house
down.
In
The Endless. That's right. Yeah.
And his last words are, let's see if you like this one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he does do that. Oh, shit. Yeah, these movies are weird.
I really love them. I watched them in reverse order with my roommate. My roommate wanted to watch a time loop movie, and so The Endless was one of my suggestions, and they picked The Endless, and but they hadn't seen Resolution yet. So when we sat down to watch Resolution, I was like, okay, this is not a spoiler because you're going to know this as soon as they show up to the house, but these are the guys from the house in The Endless.
Resolution essentially starts out being a movie about a guy who wants to go like play the hero and save his friend from his drug addiction.
Yeah, his buddy sends him this video of himself just spiraling completely out of control on drugs
and shooting birds that are apparently not there.
Yeah.
Now is he actually like freaking out and seeing birds that aren't there because he's on drugs, or is this creature like fucking with him and making him see and hear all these birds that aren't there?
I think it's the drugs. People on drugs are extraordinarily paranoid and they don't react appropriatly to their surroundings.
I've never done drugs. I don't know what drugs do.
My mom was a crack addict, and she did end up getting over it, but she was convinced that her landlord was placing cameras in her house. This happened with 3 landlords in a row, all different landlords.
They're all just big perverts who wanna watch her like smoke crack and do stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty fucked up. Like the first time you're like, "Oh, Jesus, what's happening?" You know, like she's making arguments that kind of sound compelling. And then the second time you're like, statistically, this sounds unlikely.
Do they sound compelling, or does it just sound convincing because she is so fucking sure of it?
I think it sounded convincing because she was so afraid, you know, and so like emotionally, you know, it's your mom. You care about her. You want her to be safe. She's in a strange place, and it's a bad neighborhood. She was in a bad fucking neighborhood, you know, like she was living in a place that someone who's addicted to crack can afford. So it was a bad neighborhood. I didn't know about the crack at that point. It wasn't until she'd moved once again that I started to go, something is very off here. And So I firmly believe this is the drugs talking.
Okay, that sounds fair. I believe you. I come from a long line of like functioning alcoholics.
Alcoholism and crack are not the same thing
very
at all. I mean that is fucking Hawaii and Alaska, man.
With a few exceptions. There's some heavier drug users, but I don't really hang out with them. Never really did. One of them is in federal prison because he's a fucking idiot. Thought he was real smart. Turns out he wasn't.
It's funny how often that happens among drug people.
I'm gonna go buy a yacht, so the government won't fucking find me, will they? Like, you're a fucking dumbass.
Wow. So like no money laundering or anything. He just went out and bought a fucking yacht. In
Apparently,
cash.
Supposedly that's how they caught him, because he bought a yacht, and it was just yeah. I don't know the full
pay
story.
Attention to that shit.
International drug trafficking. Did I use the word international before? Only a matter of time. To be fair. This guy, he cleaned up his shit for a while, but it just never quite took all the way.
Well, that's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that, because I gotta say, anybody who gets clean of addictive drugs, I have nothing but respect for, and I have a lot of sympathy for people who are on drugs, because, you know, like I said, my mom was there. It's a horrible, horrible place to be. The shit gets its hooks in you, and nobody goes there for, you know, like nobody goes there because they're just
doing so good, and they just kind of want
to. They're just like, they've got everything going right, and they're just like, I think I'll fuck everything up today. No, everybody goes there because shit is fucked up.
Well, Mark Maron says he doesn't have a lot of respect for people who can't completely lose themselves in drugs and alcohol for a couple of years.
I've tried. Well, not drugs.
To be fair, I think he was kidding.
I have tried with alcohol, though. I can't do it. I want to be an alcoholic so bad, and I can't do it.
Ew, that sounds gross. That's not even a funny joke. I don't. I have been around way too many alcoholics for that to even be like kind of funny.
Fair enough.
I don't.
When alcoholism goes bad, it goes really fucking bad. But
I don't take a lot of things seriously. Let me tell you. But that is something that scares the shit out of me. That's why I don't drink. It's not because I think it's like trashy or weird or whatever. I will become a full blown alcoholic, and I'll be sucking dick for crack in a week. I will 1000% be that guy.
That's a completely logical escalation path. You're a full blown alcoholic, and then 1 week later, you're sucking dick for crack.
Yeah, runs in the family.
Yeah.
Everybody who's taken a single drink in my entire family has sucked dick for crack at some point in their life.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. You know what? That sounds like a valid fear then.
Every single one.
Everyone who's taken a single drink. Wow. Your family's got a problem.
Am I exaggerating? You'll never know.
No, he's not one. Not one iota. You were telling me that story about your cousin who your grandpa let him sip his beer when he was 9 years old. 1 week later, he was sucking dick for crack.
His grandpa's dick for crack. My grandpa's dick for crack. Wait,
why grandpa wouldn't just give him the crack? You know, like, don't you love your grandson? Like, come on.
Because grandpa is also on crack.
Yeah, I guess it escalates in value when you're that deep into it.
See, now this is my brain not on drugs. Can you imagine? So more back to the movie. So Michael is our one main character. The other main character is Chris. Chris is the drug addict. Michael has a wife, and we'll learn later that he has a kid on the way and shit. So it makes this whole thing even more sad once you learn their fate at the end of everything.
Especially once you watch The Endless and learn their actual fate.
Yeah, and she's hot. I'd be like, I'm not leaving that chick for a dumb friend who I've tried to get clean a bunch of times before, and fucking, I am not that nice.
I don't fully claim to comprehend Mike's motivations there, but
he just wants to be a fucking hero. He thinks he can save somebody.
His wife is crazy hot, isn't she?
Yeah, so Mike gets to this fucking weird cabin. So he gets sent that video of Chris kind of losing his mind. And
realistic hot, I guess I should say.
Yeah,
though. Like she's like real world, like type of woman you would see in your real life, but like the really hot end of that.
And then you'd walk up to her and be like, "Hey, baby, you ever had your asshole licked by a fat man in an overcoat?" And she'll be like, "Yes." And then you just go, "Oh, okay." Then you walk away. Because what do you say to that?
You want to go for round 2?
So he leaves his hot wife. He gets to this. Oh, the video. The video. It also came with a map.
Yeah.
To where Chris is actually staying
via email,
which is weird because Chris does not know where he's fucking staying. We'll find out later.
He's like, "You think I'd have time to look at a fucking map?"
Mike gets there and Chris is like doing his thing. He's got his little pistol. He's shooting at all these birds that aren't there. And Mike is like, "Dude, whoa!" He's hiding behind the truck. He's like, "Hey, can I come up there? Will you shoot me? Stop fucking shooting! I'm gonna come.
He's like,
I'm gonna hang out with you. I'm gonna talk to you for a minute. Like, don't shoot
man,
me.
Come on, let's have a drink. Goddamn birds! Yeah, come on up, man.
Yeah, never. I wrote down it's never weird or scary when a crackhead has a loaded weapon.
Seriously.
And Chris thinks the birds are like taking shit from him, like literally coming into the house and stealing shit.
Oh, the scene where he's like. He's convinced Mike took his pipe.
Yeah, I mean that's junkie behavior.
That's a genuinely scary moment. Like, because you don't know, is this suddenly going to turn violent? Like, you don't know. You just don't know.
So Mike's goal is to, like, he comes up with a goal on the spot. He's like, "I'm going to get you clean, and you're going to be clean for a week. And if by the end of the week you don't feel like being clean anymore, go fuck yourself."
Came up with it on the spot is maybe not 100% accurate. He had the handcuff chains in his pocket. He came there with a contingency plan.
Well, yeah. He meant to get him clean, but in his mind, he's like, "No, you're clean forever." But he's like, "Fine." I feels like he made that part up on the spot. Though, if after a week you don't like it, fuck off. Possibly, but I don't know.
Possibly.
That's his plan.
That's what he tells Mike anyway. He says, "Yeah, I'm going to detox you." When Mike flatly refuses to try rehab or anything like Mike, like there's no hesitation. Mike is 100% certain this is what he wants to do with his life. Or rather,
Chris.
Oh, Chris, right. No, Chris is completely certain that this is how he wants to end his life, I should say.
Yeah, we'll learn he legitimately says that later. The actor really got tased, too. He actually requested to be tased, apparently.
No shit.
Yeah.
This guy, have you watched any interviews with him?
No, but I saw him in Spring. So that's about it. Yeah.
On the special features for The Endless, I'm not sure if it's on the US release, but on the British Arrow release.
That's the one that I have too. Yeah.
On the special features for The Endless, he has they basically asked him to start doing behind the scenes videos, when he got hired for the movie.
I can imagine.
He started sending these unhinged, hilarious fucking videos. If you watch none of the special features on The Endless, watch that one. It is 100% worth the 15 to 20 minute runtime. I can't remember how long it is. But they just start stringing his absolutely batshit videos together, and they are hilarious.
I'm down. One thing that I've been neglecting to do is watch any special features on any of the discs. There's just so goddamn many, and I just kind of want to watch the movies and move on.
Yeah, I feel you. We just happened to watch that together because we had really enjoyed The Endless, and Storm was like, "Hey, what kind of special features does this have?" So I went to the special features and found that one, and I was like, well, let's see what this is. And we watched it, and it was fantastic. One of the best special features I've seen in a long time.
Apparently, along with that, the crew ran around tasing each other just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, that sounds about right. We've had this conversation about low budget horror filmmaking before, haven't we? About Tom Savini and the bow and arrow and Friday the 13th and shit like that.
Somebody's not taking this shit seriously, And this is their first movie. It has a cast and stuff.
I can't believe that their first movie turned out this fucking good. This might be their best movie just in terms of structure and storytelling and everything. So as much as I love The Endless, like they cast themselves as the leads in The Endless.
Yeah, yeah.
Which admittedly, like there was a reason for that because they had already cast themselves in as those minor characters in Resolution.
And that worked out okay. You know what didn't work out okay for me? I thought it was a good movie, but the main actor in Spring was the most annoying, whiny little shithead. I hated him so much.
That's mainly because I didn't care for the character.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm sure if the character was better, but like with the character being kind of a dickhead like he was, and that actor, ooh,
I felt like he was right for the part.
Oh,
I just didn't like him as a character.
I wanted to punch him.
I did like the story though. I really liked the implications of the story, like that whole.
Yeah, the movie itself was good. It was just that guy. I'm just like, God damn it, get him off the screen.
I really just didn't like the character. Was my thing with Spring. Like that's the only beef I have with that movie is that character is just kind of a tool.
And we get our first glimpse of he doesn't do anything yet, but Mike goes to the store to get some supplies for this week of detox, and we see Big himself, fucking Zahn McClarnon. Is that how you say his name? I don't know.
I don't know how to pronounce it. I know he's a criminally underused actor. Let me say that because he's perfect in this. He's really perfect in Reservation Dogs. Holy shit, he's one of the breakout surprises of that show, which is a show loaded with breakout surprises.
Well, Reservation Dogs is a great show, and it might be good that it only got 3 seasons, so it didn't start to suck later.
No, I think that's fantastic because the creator wanted it to go 3 seasons. He knew what he wanted out of that, and I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, do it exactly the way you want it, nail it. Move on before we get tired of it and go on to something else that you're passionate about.
And he was my favorite part of the show. Aside from that kid's spirit.
Yeah, that guy is easily the best part of a fantastic show.
But like other than that, fucking Big was the funniest person in that entire show.
His episode with the fuck is
Cheese?
That? No, not the episode with Cheese.
Oh,
the episode with
Sagat, the guy whose name I can never remember.
No,
that guy.
No, because that was the episode with the uncle guy and the guy who played Sagat.
Jesus,
and I love that episode too. But the episode with him and the guy who played Blade in Community.
I do not remember that. Like Blade the vampire hunter in Community?
No, Blade the carny who Britta has the uncontrollable passion for because he has brain damage.
I vaguely remember.
He's the guy who runs the junkyard. The
yeah.
Quoting philosophy.
Oh god, I don't remember his name either. I love that guy. He's in a lot of shit, and he's always funny as shit.
Yeah, I follow him on Instagram. He always posts these great one-liner jokes against photos of himself. The episode with the two of them, and they stumble on like a fucking Hemlock Grove or whatever the fuck, the owl ceremony and shit with all the
all the
white guys in the woods, having like an Illuminati ceremony.
I do remember that now.
That is such a good episode, and they're high as fuck on mushrooms or something.
Oh, is it because they drank the soda that was like tainted or something? I think it was that one.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
Like Big walks into the trailer and he's just like, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna have some of this." It's like.
And then the guy's like, "I'm gonna join your brother," and he just starts downing it himself.
Yeah. No, the first time I saw that tall bastard, it was in Still Waiting, the sequel to Waiting.
Really?
The first time that I remember seeing him. He was in like Forgetting Sarah Marshall and stuff too. But that's the first time I remember seeing him. Again, funny as shit. That movie itself is actually pretty funny if you can get past how kind of shitty it is.
I didn't like Waiting enough to want to sign up for a sequel.
It's different enough to be like an interesting watch. I don't know. It's weird.
I don't know. I thought Waiting was just okay. So,
that
like it was fine.
We're gonna do an episode on Waiting and then Still Waiting and then
sure. Just as soon as we get through all these MCU movies, we have to.
I gave up on the MCU train. I'm watching all the MCU stuff.
Just as soon as we do our Back to the Future episodes.
Oh, okay. Oh, you want to go there? Okay, we're gonna do the Back to the Future episodes. We're gonna do all 3 movies, and then we're gonna do an episode breakdown of each episode of the cartoon show.
Sure, we are. Yeah, I bet.
Especially,
we've been saying Back to the Future. For the listener, our first episode was Back to the Future. We didn't release it. We just recorded it.
It was a practice episode to make sure that we could even do this. And sure enough, 7 years later, we're still doing it, but I'm still not sure that we can exactly.
And then we recorded another Back to the Future episode, but the audio got fucked up.
No, you know what got fucked up? It sounded kind of weird, but it was only because every time I opened my mouth during that, I cringed because I said something wrong or stupid, and it was bad. And I was really depressed at the time too. I don't know, something else was going on, but I'm halfway through it. I'm like, this is fucking garbage. And considering some of the shit that I have,
never got released.
yeah, considering some of the stuff that I have put out, if I didn't release something because I thought it sucked, there's probably a good reason for it.
I trust your judgment. I just think it's funny that we've been saying from the beginning we're going to do Back to the Future because it's your favorite fucking movie, and we keep not do. We've done my favorite movie at this point.
We need to do Back to the Future. I need to mentally prepare for it.
Benson and Moorhead. Let's talk about Benson and Moorhead.
Okay, let's do
it. Did you look up what the relationship between these guys is? Are they like...
No.
Are they related or anything? Are they just like buddies?
Benson and Moorhead, those are their last names.
Yeah, and it's...
all I know is that I make the joke because I'm a dad and you want to give Benson Moorhead.
Sounds more like you're an uncle.
Well, Benson and Moorhead. Benson sounds like a first name.
I get it.
No, I know you get it. I'm trying to piece it together in my own head now. Never mind.
I grew up on Benson, the TV, the sitcom from the early 80s.
I've never heard of it. It sounds like I'm joking and being sarcastic and waiting for you to yes and me, but I've really never heard of it.
Yeah, that's okay. I understand. It was not like it was remarkably good or anything like that. It was a perfectly acceptable sitcom from the early 80s, which is not high praise.
Off the resolution topic again, I have gone back and like watched a few minutes of a couple like TGIF shows that like only ran for a few episodes.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, oh.
What, got any examples?
Teen Angel.
Teen Angel.
I remember it.
I don't remember
Not
that
a lot
at
of people
all.
do. They bring it up on Pod Meets World every once in a while. And I think it ran for less than a whole season. It's about a kid who dares his friend. His friend constantly gets dared to do stuff, and he always does stuff. But then the friend who dares the other friend, the dude's like, dude, I always do what you tell me to do. I dare you to eat this fucking moldy ass shitty hamburger we found under my bed. So he eats it and he dies.
That's the opener?
Yeah, that's the first like minute of the show. And then he goes to heaven, and there's a giant floating head. It's a black man, and
so ahead of the curve. This one.
I always say this. I still say this, and everybody's like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Because I'm one of 10 people that remember this show. But he goes and the kid's like, "Are you God?" He's like, "No, I'm God's cousin Rod." So I always make the reference to God's cousin Rod. But yeah, then the whole rest of the show is just him being, looking after his friend. But it's like super low budget, super shitty. The acting's really bad. And like I see why I liked it when I was 11, 12.
Okay. So, but do you also see why it got canceled?
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Then there's a couple shows like the Tom Papa had his own sitcom. I remember
really?
I remember it being pretty good, but it only aired for like 6 episodes.
I like Tom Papa. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, it only aired for like 6, 7 episodes and got canceled.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, this is back in the 90s, Tom Papa had the show?
Early 2000s, I think.
Early 2000s, okay. Huh. Yeah, I think my dad actually turned me on to Tom, of all people, because my dad is so not the turn you on to comedy guy, but he was like, no, I found this guy, Tom Papa, on Netflix. He's like, you should check him out. And I did, and fucking love the dude.
Yeah, he's funny as shit. He's probably a fairly
really
conservative guy, but he's really funny, I think. I haven't heard a lot of his comedy like recently, but I remember liking him and liking his show. And I watched the show specifically because I liked his comedy. Canceling all my good shows. All right, back to the fucking movie. Jesus Christ. Okay. Oh, now after we see that one shot of Big,
his name is not
Big.
even Big.
His name is Charles.
His name's
in the
Big
movie.
in the fucking Reservation Dogs.
His name is Charles in this movie. Okay, I'll call him Charles from here on out, but whatever. So we also meet these drug dealers / guys.
Big Charles.
Was that what his name is?
No, it's not.
Oh, Big Charles. I getcha. But we meet these two drug dealers / drug doers who are like buying and or selling from Chris. I think
little both.
Yeah.
Or no. They loaned him some. They loaned him some drugs. He's got to pay them back.
Okay, is that what it was?
Yes.
I don't know what Bluebelly is, but the dealer guys really want it. That was my note, because they said, you better have some of that Bluebelly for us or some shit, which I assume is a drug. A crack of some kind.
No fucking clue. No, I mean it's obviously that. It's just bluebelly. I've never heard that before in my life, but
And then, you know,
that
Mike
doesn't
is
mean it's not 100% accurate.
Mike is obviously like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You're dealing drugs now? He's like, no, kind of, yeah, sort of. It's like, where's the fucking rest of it? And then Chris like looks down to the ground or something, and then
No, he looks down at his pipe.
oh, is that what he looks at?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because it cuts to Mike immediately going down into this cellar area and finding all these guns and shit. So that's why I thought like he looked down. Like,
oh no,
underneath
yeah,
the
you might
house.
be right. You might be right. I'm probably misremembering. No, I was thinking of like another point where he's like, yeah, well, where's the rest of it? And he's basically is like fucking smoked it up. Basically, maybe he was trying to say like I must have smoked it up and just forgot.
Well, yeah, because he does make many mentions to like I don't know what's going on. I've been high all fucking week. I don't know. I've been high since I've been here. Mike also finds like these old timey photos.
Quite frankly, anybody
there.
who loans this man drugs gets exactly what they deserve.
Yeah, that's a terrible idea. But drug dealers and druggies are fucking stupid. So
very.
So we get some old timey.
They say don't get high on your own supply.
That's true. That is true. So we get some old timey photos that Mike finds down in the basement. They look really weird. I can't quite tell what's on them, but like weird shit is on them.
Yeah, it looks like there's like a scene that plays out between a man and a woman, and it's not a happy scene. All the scenes that play out in this movie they're not happy stories.
Yeah, this whatever this entity is does not like people to smile very much.
I think that's probably the reason why, you know, he's like, can we do it over at the end, because like they managed to find a way to have a happy ending, and you know, maybe the idea is that the creature doesn't like the happy ending.
You know what? We need a prequel. It's just that creature hanging out, just thinking like, what can I do to these people?
You're that asshole who wants an explanation for things that should not have an explanation and are way more interesting without one.
I love explanations for things. I love knowing stuff. It's fun for me. This one is one of those things that doesn't require it, but I want it anyways. Like I'm perfectly fine not having it, but it would be cool if we had it.
No, it wouldn't. It would suck.
It'd be cool for me if we had it.
It would be completely uncool. First,
I don't care what anybody else thinks.
It would be a shitty movie because that's a shitty story. Because first off, you're dealing with an intelligence that is not human at all.
You know I was kidding, right?
It is an intelligence.
I was joking when I said it should literally be him just thinking about what he wants to do to people.
I know you're joking about that, but my point is, like, to have a prequel, to have a movie that explores this creature's mind would be uninteresting because we couldn't relate to it.
It's Benson and Moorhead sitting and talking to the creature
it would be utterly alien to us. We would have no point of reference. And so it would require a lot of like voiceover to do, or something like some really ham-fisted filmmaking technique.
Well, yeah, because
if you did it as a novel, that would be different, and it could potentially be interesting. But even then, it would be pretty dry. It'd be the Silmarillion, is what it would be.
My idea was literally him just sitting there talking to himself.
Yeah, what you want is the Silmarillion, which I don't think there are any fans of the Lord of the Rings who are like, you know what the real story was.
No, you know what they did though. They took a bunch of the Silmarillion shit and threw it into the Hobbit movies to make 3 of them 3 hours long. Okay, let's meet these Jesus freaks. So Mike is going for a walk. He takes a lot of walks.
These aren't Jesus freaks. These are alien freaks.
Well, they look like Mormons, so we're going to call them Jesus freaks because they don't say aliens necessarily. What do they say?
But they are listed in the credits as UFO cult member 1, 2.5, and 3.
They talk about a celestial messiah.
Yes, the celestial messiah will land his ship before the Great Awakening or something like that.
Something like that, before the end.
Or before the end of days, that's it, before the end of days.
That's all that amounts to. It's creepy. It's basically setting up the Endless, which we don't know that yet, because I don't even think they knew they were going to make it.
No, I mean, I think the Endless was a retrofit to this, but they came up with the story and expanded the world of what's going on in this movie. But it turns out that it actually isn't a UFO cult, but they believed it's a UFO cult.
Yeah, and you know what it is? We don't know.
See what I'm thinking it is I'm thinking that one guy they were hanging out with, the guy who, you know, the third of the 3 of them.
Yeah.
I think that guy has like some kind of brain damage, like severe. And I think he believed that there's a UFO cult. And he got those 2 guys to believe that there's a UFO cult.
Yeah, because they end up leaving it by the time the next movie comes around.
Yeah. And they left it before, well, again, we're getting into the world of the Endless, but
Spoiler.
they left it before the Endless.
Yeah, before
ends.
the time loop. Yeah.
Before the loop ends.
Oh,
so they couldn't have been there that long. Like the time loop has to have a very finite circle, and they got into it but got out of it before it reset.
Yeah, it's weird. Don't think about it too hard. Doesn't really make as much sense.
So it's probably a long loop, that one, but
except for that one guy, that Civil War soldier or whatever, who's just constantly like oh my god. And
again, this is all shit from the Endless, which is not this story technically, but
the Endless is way scarier, mostly because of you get
the
deep,
Endless is
you get deep into that time loop shit, and I'm like, that's fucked up, man.
Yeah,
like you can't die, which might be cool, but at the same time, you're just stuck in this time loop.
Can't
like
die.
You literally
imagine. Okay,
you can die in a million different ways and be alive to remember it.
We're getting into Endless territory, but imagine Chris. Imagine Chris now.
Oh, having to detox like every week.
Having detoxed, going straight back to being in full-fledged mania mode.
That sucks. Yeah, that's creepy.
That would be horrifying.
So there's not a lot of like actual horror scenes in this movie, but there's like a couple like boo moments. Like,
and the awful thing is, Mike is still forcing him to detox.
Well, he's gotta play out the story now.
But they could try and go about it different. I mean, they could, like, once you're a couple of cycles in, you could go, you know what? There is that stash in the truck.
Just do it all.
Just fucking, let's just get through this week. Let's just try and change the story.
And what happens if they like kill themselves? Is it like Groundhog Day?
Yeah. Because
well, I guess the guy in the Endless fucking does that a bunch of times.
Guy who kills himself all the time.
Well, fuck. So they do wake up in the middle of the night to see this creepy chick knocking on their window, and Mike's like, what the fuck? And Chris is like, I don't know who that is. And Mike's like, is that your girlfriend or something? And he's like, I don't know who that is. There's some new agey mental health place down the road. Like, where is this fucking place? It looks like they're out in the middle of nowhere, but they're all sorts of shit.
Right on the edge of a reservation.
Yeah. Again, Chris does not know what the fuck he's doing. The next morning, the dealers, they come back asking for a Crizzy, which I also don't know what that is, or a Twiz. So all these different names for drugs. And that's basically their whole role, to be assholes and ask for drugs in funny ways.
To be a threat to the story.
And while this happens, Charles, big Charles, him and his friends, they come up and they're like, what the fuck's going on? Why are you assholes here?
Yeah, and he's the one who reveals that this is reservation land and
he owns the house and shit.
Yeah, it's his place.
So Mike is like, dude, maybe can we just give me 5 days? I'll pay you. And Charles is like, yeah, okay.
But you better fucking be out on the 5th. He said he is so not.
He's not big.
This is what shows like he's a really good actor because he's fucking hilarious in Reservation Dogs. He is the exact opposite. He's terrifying in this.
Did you watch Dark Winds? It's another show. It's an AMC show.
No, I haven't seen that one.
He's like Big's serious brother.
Okay.
In that, because he's a reservation cop guy.
But it's a more serious.
But it's a murder mystery show basically. Oh man, completely different. He is not funny. I think he smiles maybe twice in the entire show.
And he's got such good comedic timing in Reservation Dogs too. So he's clearly he's got the ability, he's got that great comedic timing, but he's also got that gravitas where he can come into the situation and play it serious. And he's playing it pretty fucking serious in this movie. And his parting line is, "You better be out of here by whatever day it is." Though he's like, "There's a lot of junkies buried in these hills."
Yeah, I'm like, oh damn. Okay, you know what, friend? You're fine. I'm leaving. Sorry, guy. I've got shit to deal with. So, Mike gives Chris a lot of shit. He's like, dude, what the fuck? Why are you on an Indian reservation? Did you know that you were on an Indian reservation? Do you know what they could do to us right now? And he's like, yeah.
He's like, how the fuck would I know? And then Mike's like, you check a fucking map. And Chris is like, do I look like I know how to check a map? And then Mike's like, you sent me a map. He's like, fucking bullshit, I did.
Yeah. Chris has mentioned this brick house or this weird looking little house. Stone house out by somewhere. And Mike is out there cleaning the shit bucket because, you gotta shit somewhere if you're handcuffed to the wall.
Oh God, I got some things to say about the shit bucket.
Wait, do you shit in a bucket often?
No, not as often as I used to, but there's a scene where Chris tries to slash his own wrists, and Mike shows up after the fact and is cleaning him up by setting his hand on the edge of the shit bucket.
But it's upside down.
No, it's not.
It wasn't upside down?
No, it's open with the shit bucketiness in there,
well.
and his wrist is just sitting on the edge of that, and all I can think is about the shit in that shit bucket and how when you dump a shit bucket, shit gets on the rim, and I didn't see anybody with soap and water out there. They don't have a hose.
He's a junkie. He can handle it.
They're going completely off of bottled water out here.
Mike gets to wash his hands when he goes to the store.
I'm a little worried about Chris, quite frankly, because he was the one who slashed his wrist, and we all know when you're a junkie, your infection, your any wound is prone to infection, and he's sitting his recently slashed wrist on the edge of a shit bucket.
That doesn't happen until later, until Chris gets really fed up with everything, and he's just like, I quit. So yeah, when Mike is cleaning out the shit bucket, he finds like a rock or something like falls out of the sky or some shit.
No, it's a pine cone falls off of a tree. But you know what you were saying about like Chris giving up, actually that makes it make way more sense as to why he's handcuffed still to the thing in The Endless, because you know that as soon as they woke back up and they realized what was going on, Chris would be like, Chris has a gun. That's probably what he's trying to stop him doing, is just shooting himself immediately.
Well, he wants to die anyways.
He does. Like, he's on a death trip. That's what this whole thing is. He's just trying to kill himself by getting high.
So when he's cleaning out the shit bucket, he finds this fireplace stove thing, which he finds.
Yeah, it was clearly used to be part of a house, but the house is long since destroyed. Like this, it probably like from the 1800s or something like that.
And there's also like a creepy cabin like right next to it. Not right next to it, but like...
Which we come to learn was like 30 years old or something like that.
Yes. And then there's a record player in there. He finds a record, by the way, in the fireplace area thing, in the stove. In the cabin, there's a record player, and he puts on the record, and it's basically a woman saying like, oh my God, here's the stuff. I'm getting murdered now. Or something. We don't know what it is, but...
Well, the implication is some kind of a deal went wrong, and she got murdered.
Then he finds a projector in there, and he takes it home, and he watches this tape that he found, I think in the cellar basement thing of the house that they're staying in. And I don't know what was on the tape exactly, but it was creepy. I just know that part.
Well, is it the slides? Is it the film? Or
the film, the
film,
the little white circly thing that he was fucking with earlier.
Okay, so the roll of film. I don't remember what was on there. Oh, wasn't it like a man strangling his wife or something? Like that?
Yes, I think that's what it was. It goes on. There's a fucking library book waiting outside for him at some point with other pictures of creepy shit in there. Chris has a little breakdown because he feels like shit because,
he's in full detox mode. It's bad. Chris isn't doing well right now.
Mike goes into town to pay Charlie for the 5 days that they're staying there, and he's just asking him all sorts of questions like, dude, do you know anything about any of this shit? And he's like, nope. The only reason the house is shitty like that is because we couldn't afford to build it back up after it burned down, so... fuck you.
He's very non-responsive, and then Mike starts bribing him with $5, and he'll give him like a line of information, and then Mike's like, well, what else happened? And he's like, looks down at the wad of cash in Mike's hand.
The book that they found, it was like a library book, and Mike goes and returns it to the library, but then he doesn't like return it to the library. No, he takes it to the place where it's supposed to go for some fucking reason, because I don't know what psycho does that.
Mike is clearly primed for this at this point.
Dude, has he been doing it already? Are we in the middle of the loop?
No, because it starts outside of the loop. It starts back at Mike's home. So I feel like this is the first loop. But he's clearly primed for it. I think like just in like a personality level.
Watch too many damn movies is his problem.
Something like that.
Talking to Benson and Moorhead too fucking much.
I mean, he thinks Mike's got like a bit of a savior complex, which means he's got a bit of a main character complex, which means he is the type of guy who's a little bit narcissistic and looking for some greater meaning to his life within this thing he's doing. He's
a bit of an unlikable tool in this movie. I don't like him.
Yeah.
I like Chris. Fucking why am I on the side? I'm not really on the side of him, but like why do I like the druggie more than I like the normal guy?
I'll tell you why, because the actor is fucking nailing it. The guy who they got to play this, I can't remember his name again. You said it earlier, but I can't remember it, but he is so good in this role. He really is. He's just fantastic. You want to talk about perfect casting.
In the place where the book is supposed to be, he also finds, I think they're pictures or slides. They're slides, right?
Yep. Slides.
And he goes and looks at these slides on this projector, and Chris is like, "What's this story about?" Oh no, it's like, "What's that?" And Chris is like, or Mike is like, "Another story with a fucked up ending because somebody died, like how he hangs himself by the river or something." I think he's missing an arm too.
I don't remember. It's none of these things. Like he keeps referring to them as stories. This is why I think he's got like the main character complex, like because he sees it. He sees it. He's immediately identifies these as stories. I don't think most people would. Most people would just identify them as a series of events.
Yeah, he's way ahead of us here. I think that's kind of what's going on though.
Again, he's primed for this. He's primed for what is happening.
So the two of these idiots have a nice question mark chat about all the ugly chicks they fucked. I'm like, that's something, I guess.
I'm not gonna say it's not toxic masculinity because it totally is, but it's totally rings true. This is the most bro down moment of this movie.
Yeah, and then Mike, they go to sleep. Obviously, Mike wakes up with this like not a projector slide, like an overhead slip. You know, the overhead projector kind of slip with a map on it on his chest.
No, it's a photo.
Is it a photo?
It's a photo of a grave.
It looks like it's clear like though with like the map overlay on it.
No, his has it's the negative of a photo that he found in the basement.
Oh, okay.
One of the photos he found in the basement.
That makes more sense actually.
And I think it's of a graveyard or something like that, and that's why it's of a grave, and he goes to the graveyard, he finds the grave, and there's a videotape there.
A VHS tape, everybody. Yeah. And then he calls his wife to check in because he does that a couple times. Lying to her, by the way.
Every time.
Everything's going great. We're doing good. We're going to be home in a few days. I'm bringing them with me. It'll be fun.
I'm totally not going to get charged with kidnapping when this thing's over.
They watch the tape, and it's basically they get home the cabin, shitty cabin. They put in the tape, and it's a tape of Mike tasing Chris, which happened 2 days ago. Yeah. So they're like, "What the fuck?" And they're like, "Dude, somebody could have like filmed this through the window." And Chris is like, "Yeah, no, it's a shitty VHS tape. Of course they could have. They could have just filmed it through the window." He's like, "But there's no glare," and they're arguing over filmmaking techniques and shit.
They're arguing about the resolution of the video image.
Oh, resolution! I get it.
It's not HD, Mike. This is a shitty video cassette.
Because the movie's called Resolution. Then Mike always finds his way to that fucking shed again. This time he finds something else. Don't really know what it is yet. Turns out it's a journal that's all in French. He goes...
Okay, the weirdest part about this to me is that he finds the journal in French. Like upon rewatching, right? This is a rewatch for me.
Right.
So I know what's happening. He finds the journal in French. Later, he will meet a Frenchman.
Yes.
He never asks that man to translate the journal.
Oh, shit, he doesn't, does he? But then he doesn't have it.
No, but you would think he would come back, right?
Maybe.
Or was it the last day?
If that dude wasn't so fucking creepy,
yeah,
maybe.
That dude was creepy as shit, wasn't he?
Yeah. So Mike goes back to the store to talk to Charles about the shed, and he asks him about the journal. Oh, Charles also says you shouldn't be in there because he knows something's up, I think.
I do kind of wonder, like, how much Charles knows about what's going on here. Like, is Charles aware of what's actually happening, or is he just aware that some fucked up shit happens around there?
Or is he just being an ominous dick?
Yeah, or
just to freak people out?
Does he just not like this guy and not like that he's on his property?
But it turns out that all the stuff in the cabin and that journal belonged to some French people who came and asked about the caverns that are there, the caves and shit. We'll get more on that from the other French guy,
which I took to mean it was recently. Apparently, it was 3 decades prior.
But time loops? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. None of it makes sense. Don't think about it that hard. Your brain will break. It's one of those.
You probably shouldn't be thinking about time loops when watching this movie because that hasn't been revealed.
I know, but now since we know that it all takes place in that one little thing, I can't stop fucking thinking about it. And so Mike gets back to Chris, and Chris is talking to this fucking realtor guy. He's not really a realtor. He's more like a con man. It's one of those, I buy houses for cash guys.
Yeah, exactly. He's a buy your house for cash guy.
And then Chris is like, dude, yeah, we're gay. We fucking live here together. And we have the deed, right? We have the deed, and if you give me the deed, sir, I will give you this briefcase full of money right now.
And then Mike's just like, we're renting. And he's like, oh fuck, man. Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to fuck up your shit.
I didn't mean to waste your time, but I'm gonna kindly fuck off now and find people who actually want me to buy their house.
He leaves with a threat. He's like,
Oh yeah.
Maybe
What a
you know,
dick.
I don't want anything about my business to be spread around, and maybe you don't want anything about your business to be spread around either, because Mike is fucking handcuffed.
He is handcuffed
to
to
the
the
wall.
So they're into some freaky shit. Yeah. So Mike then, after that guy leaves, Mike is like, dude, what the fuck? And then he ends up playing another clip on his laptop, and it's literally the same conversation they had like less than a minute ago.
Yeah.
So
some weird shit is afoot, if that wasn't already apparent. Something is watching them.
And then Mike will eventually go for another walk here, but first he goes outside, gets shot at, and then there's also a dog friend that Chris has made up in this area, and he named it Sarah, and it's his only little friend, and it's this sweet little dog who seems to love him a lot.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the drug dealers show up.
Oh yeah. Trigger warning, folks.
Yep. Shoot the dog. You don't get to see it, but you do hear it, and it's very sad because his dog is like this pretty golden retriever, and she's so sweet, and it made me sad. Every time. I've watched this several times, and it's like, oh, every time. Then they have a sad conversation after the dog dies about how Chris never really enjoyed life until he started doing drugs anyways. So it's like, what's the fucking point of being sober?
Chris is very pragmatic about this whole thing. He's like, hey man, you know, I'm not trying to bring you down. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. Just, you know, let me kill myself the way I want to do it.
Yeah,
I am 100% on Chris's side of this by the end. I get where Mike is coming from. I get it, but he completely brings me around by the end.
Yeah, the only issue with that is that addicts do shitty things to people around them, and that's the deal. But
true, but at this point, he's everybody in his life has cut him off.
Yeah, so it no longer matters really. Yeah,
like Mike is very late to this party.
Yeah, just a little bit. So now,
which isn't to say that Chris hasn't fucked Mike over already too. He probably has.
Oh, something about he was at his wedding.
Yeah.
The wedding.
Yeah, that's right. His wife
at the
still
wedding.
hasn't forgiven him for it.
We don't know what that is because they never say, but
yeah.
I can only imagine. So then Mike goes for his walk. He finds the caves, and we get a little jump scare because there's in fact a junkie in the caves. Because Chris mentioned like, oh yeah, there's some caves around here.
That is such a good jump scare. I feel bad for mentioning it on the podcast.
Oh
because
yeah,
it's so good.
He does go back to Chris later, and Chris is like, oh yeah.
Even knowing it was coming, it worked.
Yeah, right. Like there's a lot of junkies in those fucking caves. You might not want to go in there. What a dick. But Mike also does go and find the owner of the dog because the dog has had tags on the whole time. And he has to tell this old man that his fucking dog died, and this guy's reaction is pretty real, but he doesn't want to like have a fucking meltdown, I guess, in front of his now guest. But the dog's name turns out is Sasha, I believe. So sad. I'm very sad. So he invites him in for tea. Oh, also Mike sprained his ankle running from the junkie in the cave.
Oh, and this guy addresses it in the creepiest fucking way possible. He's saying how he doesn't like being around people.
Yeah, he wants to study man, but doesn't want to be around man. Except you.
And then Mike is like, "Oh yeah, he says, except you, because I can run faster than you
right now,
just now." And like, okay, that sounds like something a serial killer would say.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Weirdo.
This guy's name is Byron, and he happens to be a French guy. And you know what else he happens to be? Connected to those other French people who went missing and were responsible for that journal and all that shit in the shed.
30 years ago.
30 years ago. So what the fuck? Mike's like, did they just like run away or did they leave or what? And he's like, no, dude, they left their passports here and shit. So they got integrated into the fucking Endless cult.
I probably not that one.
Yeah.
There are a lot of time loops out there. If you remember at the end of the Endless.
Oh my god! Yeah,
there are so
that
many
is the
more.
Scary part. That's where you see all the creepy shit with that Civil War guy running, and his loop is like 10 seconds.
There's so many more than the ones we saw in the movie when they zoom out over the valley, and there's all those little bubbles.
Oh man, yeah, that is some scary shit. If I ended up in some dude's house and he started talking like this guy, I would definitely assume that I'm getting stabbed at some point.
I would definitely start backing towards the door and being as polite as possible and getting the fuck out of there as quickly as I could.
Also, okay, so Mike is about to leave. He's like, yeah, I gotta get out of here. After the dude's like talking with his mirror about stuff. I don't even remember what the fuck he was saying, but I was just creeped out the whole time.
No, he pulled out a mirror so he could roll himself
a cigarette,
or
a joint
of these
red
these
herbs from
flowers.
South America.
Yeah,
and sure,
which come back in the Endless.
Mike is gonna leave, and he's like, hey, thanks for the tea and the aspirin. And Byron looks at him and goes, aspirin? I'm like, did Byron drug Mike? What the fuck just happened?
Yeah, I kind of wonder about that too, because it does get addressed. It's very clearly something that was in the script.
But
so yeah, I'm wondering if
what?
we're not like watching half of the story that's getting told, and maybe like there's another portion of what's happening that we're not seeing, which isn't to say if it like a shot got cut, because Byron doesn't remember giving Mike any aspirin.
Does he not remember giving him any aspirin, or did he do it on
No, the thing I'm wondering is if like maybe this is like one of them is in one time loop, one of them is in another time loop.
Oh shit, that's a good call. That's weird, man. What we need is somebody way smarter than us to analyze these movies.
I do. I need to hear someone's intelligent take on that particular conversation.
And stuff like that kind of helps me like think through it too and
Yeah.
come up with other stuff that I just wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah.
Without like somebody else having these thoughts. They have these thoughts, and then I can come up with my other thoughts over here, and yeah. So I'm not that smart of a guy. So after that little interaction with the aspirin and the not aspirin, the maybe aspirin,
I really want to hear someone more intelligent than me talk about that. Maybe Benson and Moorhead actually address it in a commentary.
maybe they were
track
just
or
being
something.
ominous because they were being mean. They're just like,
I
let's
don't
just
know,
throw
but
this
I
in
like
there
it.
and-
I like it. I think it works really well because it takes a sequence that was already creepy and weird and makes it creepier and weirder. So even if there's not a really good explanation of it, it works in the moment. This chair is farting on me. It's making fart sounds.
You heard it here, folks. He's farting and blaming it on the chair. It's your chair.
I'm senior changing it over here.
It's your chair. You brought it.
I know. That's the worst part.
Okay, so after Mike gets done with that creepy conversation, he goes back to find Chris. This is the scene where he has cut his wrist, but with a coffee cup that Mike keeps on filling up with water for him. And I'm like, you gotta stop. The whole time I'm like, you gotta stop leaving him alone with that shit, because something's gonna happen. And of course, something does happen. And he goes, it's not very deep, and he's fine. He just kind of fell asleep. He wakes up and he's like, yeah, I tried to find an artery with the coffee cup, but I couldn't find one. So then I decided to dig in the mattress with it and try to find a spring. This mattress is made by NASA. I couldn't find a spring. Like, yep, he's bad. He's bad at everything.
But he's so good at his performance. He's so good in these scenes. I love this guy. I want this guy to be in more stuff.
And then a knife the next day just kind of fucking pops up out of nowhere. Maybe not the next day. Yeah, the next morning.
Yes, the next
Whatever.
morning, yeah.
The next morning, it just
The
falls.
last morning.
Yeah, it falls onto the floor and wakes up Mike, and he's like, what the fuck is this? Hey, Chris, is this your fucking knife? He's like, yeah, man, I lost it like 3 weeks ago.
He's like, well, it drops down. Well, they don't see this. We see this.
Well, yeah, it drops down and then wakes Mike up.
Yeah,
because
it
of the
drops
noise.
down, but it drops down from where basically there's these scratchings in the wall that look like the cave paintings that Mike had found.
Holy shit,
in
was
the
something
junkie cave.
was something just now scratching that shit into
Yes.
the wall? Oh man, I didn't even think about that. I thought the thing was just like, well, obviously it had the scratchy things had to come. The scratches have to come from somewhere. So yeah, no, that makes sense. I don't think I was thinking about it hard enough. Is my problem there. So yeah.
So there's something that's physical here. It's not a strictly spiritual entity or something. It's actually got a physical form to it.
It's the Wendigo.
Could
We are on an Indian reservation,
Could be.
and that's just kind of when you're on an Indian reservation. That's just kind of the excuse for everything. A Wendigo
It's the
did
Wendigo.
it. Even when you're not, and you're Stephen King, and you're too high to figure anything out, it's the Wendigo. So yeah, this
Oh,
big.
crack is a cocaine derivative, and that's where
Oh,
the
that's
vast
true.
majority of Stephen
That's
King's
true.
work in the 80s came from.
None of this shit happened. It's just fucking Mike set up a camera outside, and Chris forgot and like drugged. That wasn't really aspirin. It was crack. I don't fucking know. He seems to feel better the next morning. I don't know. So Chris is being all depressed, and the projector turns on by itself. Ooh, and it's literally the conversation they're having right this second. No, wait.
No, it's a conversation they just had.
Yeah. The conversation that they're having right this second is the one that's on the laptop.
Yeah, and it's actually like a split second ahead of them.
Yes. And then the laptop's playing what's happening right now. Then it shows the drug dealers. They come in and fucking shoot them both. And Mike is like, something's happening. We probably need to leave. Chris is like, that's weird. What the fuck? He's the rational one here, which is weird.
Oh, well, they're both freaking the fuck out. But Mike has actually gotten to the point where he's like, yeah, you know what? This is we got to get the fuck out of here.
But then Mike's like, okay, we got to figure this out. I'm like, can you figure it out there?
Yeah.
where you're pretty sure the drug dealer's not going to come shoot you. But no. But then he's like, yeah, dude, I think it needs a story with an ending. That's where he figures out it's a story. Well, he's called all the other ones a story, but now he figures out that they're in one too.
Yeah. Again, this dude's got major main character syndrome.
And
But he's actually right, because he is the main character of this story.
well, yeah, technically. So they're trying to leave, and they go to this shitty truck, and it turns out that, hey, there's the drugs that Chris lost, but I don't think he actually lost them. I think the weird shadow monster Wendigo thing fucking took him and put him in there, waiting for him to find him.
That's entirely possible.
And then, they get in the truck, and they find a CD, which they play, and it's them being confronted and killed by Charles and his people. Or at least they think it's them. I don't know if it is them.
No, it's definitely them.
Okay.
Yeah, because
I already had their voices to.
Yeah, because he says burn it down.
Then they go into another shed or cellar or some shit because like something falls over and like reveals this opening to them.
No, the door blows off the thing.
What the fuck? This thing is just like, I'm just playing at this point. It's a child.
It's clearly leading them at this point.
So they go into that cellar after the door gets blown off, and they find some film cans. And the car was a gift, apparently. The drug dealers show up just as they're leaving, and they break the windows in his car, and Mike is like, oh my god, that car was a gift. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Who's just giving you a car? Do you have rich parents? So they open that film can, and they check out what's on it. I don't even remember what's on it. I think it was was that the guy hanging?
No, the film can has...
Oh, it's them.
It's the cabin, and it's burning... It's burning
down.
Oh,
that's right. Okay, nope, I'm back on track now. So Mike decides he's like, I'm not leaving. I'm not bringing this shit back to my wife, because he already knows that there's like some weird supernatural entity fucking with him and doesn't want his kid and his wife fucking in it. Oh, he mentions before he gets shot on that CD, he says, I'm going to be a
Yeah.
So he's going to be a dad. So they go to this rock outside, this giant rock outside of the cabin, because Chris says, like, there's a big rock outside of the cabin. We can just kind of hang out there and watch and see what happens.
Well, yeah, because the film showed them basically getting killed in a different position. Like they were somewhere near the cabin. It was burning down, and they were getting killed. But he could see that, like basically. So they came up with the idea to hide in this place that was like the one place where they could be near enough to see what was going on, but still be hidden from whatever was going on.
So the next stuff comes at you pretty quick. They're watching the drug dealers get all fucked up on the stuff that they have in there, and Chris is like, motherfucker, those assholes are doing my stuff. And then Charles and his boys come in, and they fucking shoot those drug dealers, and then they burn the house down. And then Chris loses his mind. He's like, okay, it's cool, right? Oh, right before he has his little freak out, all the bullets and ammo and shit in the basement go off because the
house is on fire. He was like, all my ammo.
And then
they're both pretty freaked out from just watching those two guys get murdered.
I mean, they'd fuck those guys, but that'd
fuck
you up a little bit.
Fuck those guys, but that would be fucking terrifying,
especially when you know it's supposed to be you.
Yeah, that was gonna be you if you were in there.
And then Chris like freaks out and goes, "Oh my god, I just need a hit!" Ah, I'm like, dude, the house is burning down. Stop it.
And then he runs up to it. He runs up to the house to try and get in and get a hit, and the heat is too much for him. He can't get close to it.
And then as Mike is kind of like holding him down there, like keeping him from going to the house or whatever the fuck they're doing, they have this conversation. Basically, they're forgiving each other for all the dumb shit they've done over the past week and forever or whatever. And Chris is like, dude, it's cool. I think it's time. I'm going to go to rehab, but you have to take me right now. Otherwise, the shit's not going to happen. And Mike is like, fuck, finally. Thank you. Then
just as they reach their resolution.
So they may have given whatever it is a happy ending, I said, but whatever it is apparently presents itself, because they're like sitting there having forgiven each other and everything's cool. He's going to go to rehab, and then this giant shadow just looms over them, and Chris like kneels down, looks at it, and goes, I'm sorry.
And now they're looking up straight into the camera, so we're obviously in whatever it is perspective.
Yes. Chris says, I'm sorry, and then Mike says, can we try it another way? And then
cut
fucking
to
black, and then credits, and oh man, that's a dark ending. I don't think these guys get out of this. What do you think?
I don't think these guys get out of this. Okay, here's my takeaway based on just watching the movie. Right, like don't take the endless in, don't bring the endless into it. Right, keeping the endless out of it. My original takeaway from this movie, because I did watch this movie first.
Yes, me too.
Of the two of them, my original takeaway from this movie was that we're the monster. Yeah, we are the monster. They're doing this for our entertainment, and then we get to the end, and they confront us as we confront them.
Why are we so fat?
genetics.
Or are they just really little?
I mean, to us they are. So yeah, I mean, my initial takeaway was that. My initial takeaway, and that honestly might have been Benson and Moorhead's original intention.
It's like the darker take on the movie hero.
Yeah, kind of.
Interesting.
For those who haven't seen it, among which I have to count myself, but we have discussed the movie hero before. The movie hero is about a guy who is the main character of his movie.
Yeah, everybody has an audience.
Yeah.
The only difference is he can see his. And then eventually everybody in the movie starts seeing their audiences and they're like, what the fuck?
I haven't seen it, so I do have to check it out though.
It's got Jeremy Sisto in it.
Who did you say is the guy who steals other people's audiences?
Oh God, what is his name? I don't know his name, but he's like the bad guy in Constantine. Like I think he's the devil or something.
Oh, Peter Stormare.
Peter Stormare, yes. And perfect.
Peter Stormare stealing other people's audiences.
In a shitty guitar with no strings, I think. That might have strings. I don't remember, but I haven't seen it in a long time.
I gotta see this movie. I'm sure it's not great, but I still have to see it.
It was back in my like I need to watch every indie movie phase, so it might be fucking amazing. It might be shit. Who knows?
Okay, so what are your final thoughts taking the movie by itself versus taking it in conjunction with The Endless? I guess I didn't get to my other take, which is The Endless. Obviously, once you watch The Endless, then you have to go back and reconsider this as the beginning of the time loop and stuff like that. So that I haven't watched it enough with that view in mind. Like, because the first time I watched it, I formed this really strong opinion about it being, like we're the monster and, we're the ones who are kind of like lording this over them. But then watching The Endless really changes the whole narrative of what's going on here. So I'm curious to hear what your take is on that, because I'm still kind of feeling mine out, to be honest.
I don't know if I really ever thought about it. I just thought it was in fact a weird shadow monster that we never see. That's probably not a shadow monster, obviously, but it's some entity of some kind that we don't see that is obviously physical in form in some way, because it's like throwing shit at people and like dropping things to get people's attention.
Oh, you know what it is? I got it, right? All the little time loops, that's your DVD shelf is what that is. A bunch of different time loops. Some of them are terrifying and some of them are nice. And some of them are YouTube or TikTok videos or Vines of this guy just getting up and exploding and then getting up and exploding and then getting up and exploding.
Have you ever watched TikTok? Like if you watch TikTok, those videos play infinite.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So there is like if you're taking that's a universe, there's just some person in your phone in that universe just going around
trapped
and around doing the exact same thing.
Loop.
Oh man.
Well, and then if you take it takes place on a reservation, right? Well, there's that Native American idea, and I don't know how accurate this is or how much it's been misconflated. I'm fully open to the idea that I've got this completely wrong, but there is that popularized idea that Native Americans believe that a camera steals the soul of the person it records.
I have heard that, yeah.
And so, if that's the case, the people are trapped in these their souls are trapped in these little loops.
So a Native American photographer is just an evil asshole trying to steal your soul, is that it?
I mean, if they actually believe that, then technically they would be, yeah.
Oh, that's fucked up, man. Yeah, I'm down. I like that. Yeah, no, I'm a simple guy when it comes to that stuff. Like, there is a creature, an entity of some kind that is physical, that can obviously be invisible too, or something, or move really fast, or some.
Absolutely.
Like it can.
It's got a physical presence in the world. Yeah,
it has a shadow. It creates a shadow. Therefore, it can definitely. It's a thing.
It has a shadow. It lifts the knife and scratches the shit in the wall. It rips the door off of that little underground shed thing.
Somehow sends emails.
It's got access to the internet
and can record things potentially without a camera.
Yeah, it can create videotapes.
Because there's also like all these all these little bits in the movie where like it gets like not like a film reel, but it kind of looks like a film reel's burning sort of.
Yeah, the image flares out like the camera, and then up and burnt the film once, and now we're rewatching it.
Yeah, it happens like a few times when they're not near it, and then when the one time it happens when they are near it, they're like, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, they notice it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a thing. That's weird.
It's clearly affecting the fabric of their reality, which is the film reel.
It's like a Power Rangers villain. It's video camera head.
Yeah. Sure.
Holy shit. This is a Power Rangers prequel.
It's probably more of a spinoff because that happened in the 90s. This very clearly happens in the 2000s.
A Power Rangers prequel to the 2017 movie.
He's not in the 2017 movie.
But he would have been if there was a sequel. Camera head. Of course.
Okay, so you're saying camera head.
Camera head, because it's video cameras are shaped like hammers, sort of. They're camera head. What? That is exactly what he would be called.
I'm not fighting you on it. I agree. I'm just exasperated with the amount of space the Power Rangers occupy in my mind at this point, thanks to you.
You would love it. You would love that would be the funniest fucking thing. Take that, camera head. We need the power sword. We need to kill. We need to get camera head. All right, I think we're done. I don't know. Resolution is a good movie. It's kind of weird. It's a slow burn. It's
very slow burn.
It's not a horror movie until like the last 3 minutes. It's one of those kinds of movies.
It's a horror movie that takes the entire movie to get to the horror.
With a few like, hey, that chick's kind of creepy. Hey, that dude was weird.
Yeah.
This is uncomfortable.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah. But once you get there, it feels like you've been on this whole journey with these fucking weirdos.
And the horror is very visceral. I mean, at least it felt that way to me. When I watched it for the first time, I had a very strong gut reaction to the horror of it.
You threw up?
No, I mean, I just like feeling.
I know what you mean.
You think you're yes-anding me, but you're no-butting me is what you're doing.
Are you saying I have no butt? It's true. I have no butt. All right, are we done? Resolution's good. Go watch it. Then go watch The Endless, and then it'll recontextualize the entire fucking movie for you. But you don't get to do that with a lot of movies, actually. It's kind of cool.
I would say or don't, but at this point, you've listened to this podcast, so watch them both. If you haven't already, you need to watch them both.
Do it. Do it now.
And then go check out Benson and Moorhead's other movies, Spring, Synchronic, and Something in the Dirt, because they're all really good. None of them quite hit the heights of those two movies, Resolution and The Endless, respectively. Those are their best movies, but the other three movies are also very good movies.
Yeah, what he said. Now he's also going to say his social media nonsense, so we can get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, check me out. If you want to follow my comedy career, you can check me out at Samuel Mantz. That's Mantz, MANTSZ. Check me out there, and I'll tell you if I've got a show coming up or something that I know about, unlike this show I did last Friday, which I found out about the afternoon of the show. Check out at Not For Nothing Music to follow Andrew's band, and of course, follow us at The Shark Pod.
Let's get the fuck out of here. Go to patreon.com/sharksacrosshollywood and give us some money so you can hear us talk about other shit that's not the movies that we talk about that you don't have to pay for. Yeah, that's a good advertisement for it. We're going to come back next week with, this was supposed to be our lesser known horror movie, and it is. Not a lot of people talk about this movie, not a lot of people know about it, I don't think. I think more and more people are going to discover Benson and Moorhead because they directed some episodes of Moon Knight and shit, so their name is out there in that Marvel universe, so they're a little bit more recognized these days.
I'm really hoping that this is where that Marvel payoff happens, where like they get some good money and then they can go off and do more of these cool underground movies that they like to make.
Oh, Anthony Mackie, I think, is actually in one of their movies, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in Synchronic.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, they're doing all right. Next week, though, we're going to go for a more mainstream, just a more mainstream horror movie.
Name horror.
We're going to talk about Final Destination next week. It should be a lot of fun. I like that stupid fucking movie a lot.
This is a classic. This is an undisputed classic.
So we're going to do that. We're going to talk about Final Destination next week. But until then, stay jawsome.